Hello and welcome to Ecology and Nature. My name is Kate Hefner and I'm the guest host on today's show. Today I'm here to talk about a subject that's super fascinating. We're going to be learning about the concept of trophic downgrading of Earth. So you may ask, what is trophic downgrading? Well, it's the consequences of removing apex consumers from nature. Apex consumers are species that exist near or at the top of their food webs. So this could be anything from wolves to bears to sharks to sea otters. These apex consumers greatly affect their prey below them in the food webs. This is known as trophic cascades. Now these apex consumers are not only affecting their prey, but they're also affecting the ecosystem around them. My first example of how these trophic cascades affect ecosystem processes has to do with these amazing animals on my shirt. So wolves were reintroduced into Yellowstone National Park. When this occurred, it decreased deer and elk populations because the wolves were hunting them, and thus increased plant populations because they were no longer being overgrazed by those deer and elk. Because of the increase in plant populations, the rivers in Yellowstone changed. The rivers narrowed because the vegetation wasn't allowing for the banks to erode. This just shows how impactful apex consumers can be on the ecosystem processes in the environment. Another example I have has to do with sea otters, sea urchin, and kelp. So with the absence of the apex consumer, in this case the sea otter, the sea urchins were able to increase their population and thus decrease the population of the kelp they were feeding on. Without these kelp forests, there are less kelp forest fish. With the absence of sea otters, it also affects other consumers like winged gull. When the sea otters were there, the winged gull eat the fish, but when the sea otters were absent, the winged gull eat macroinvertebrates. This example shows how an apex consumer affects not only those organisms found in their own food chain, but the ecosystem as a whole. As we come to the end of our show, I just want to reiterate what trophic downgrading and trophic cascades are. Again, trophic cascades are how apex consumers impact their prey below them in food webs, and trophic downgrading is the consequences of removing those apex consumers from nature. I hope you've learned a lot from this show, and tune in next week as we learn more about food webs.